Welcome everybody back to another episode of the Handsome Homebuyer podcast. I'm your host, Charles Weinraub, aka the Handsome Homebuyer. If you have a house that smells like cat pee, is dated from the 1960s, has 6 inches of mold on the wall, human waste floating past the basement steps. I don't care if it's new, I don't care if it's old, I don't care if it's falling down. I'm quick, I'm easy. Lord knows I'm a good time and I want to buy it. All right, so I feel like I'm getting a little old. Like I don't feel like I'm old, but I feel like I'm not super young anymore. Like I'm about to turn 45. For all intents and purposes, let's say, I'm going to live to be 150. So a third of my life is over. So now I want to tap into the younger generation, who I got to tell you, 99.9% of the younger generation, Gen Z, lazy, not doing shit. This gentleman who I'm about to bring on, blowing minds. I met him at the boardroom recently. Great kid, unbelievable business model, general partner in a $100 million fund, and he's in his 20s. Like he's in his 20s. Like he has time. He's not going to be 30 for a minute. And he's also already having massive success. And the business model in itself, when I heard about it the first time about 6 months ago, blew my mind. First thing that popped into my head is like, what the hell am I doing? And how do I do this? Which is really the great thing about real estate, because there are so many different avenues within real estate and ways to make money. Alas, I am still doing what I did before, which I love. So he can keep what he's doing, but it is absolutely fascinating. Super impressive guy, super proud of him, ultra successful, very, 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 very young. My man Dylan from Rockstar Capital.
Hey.
Bam!
Appreciate the intro, brother.
So you've been on a bunch of podcasts, right?
A few, yeah.
Have you ever gotten an intro that went anything like that?
No, that was a grand intro. Now, back in the day when I was in the music industry, we'd get some fun intros as well, but yeah.
So let's talk about this, because I don't know anything about your apparently musician on stage panty throwing days.
Sure.
So the name of the fund is Rockstar Capital Group, right? Well, not the fund specifically, but you are Rockstar Capital Group.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that the whole Rockstar thing comes from the fact that you either were or currently are a rock star.
Surprisingly enough, it actually comes from my dad. Now, when I was growing up, I'd watch my dad. He would take me to karaoke bars. He would sing all the time. He got picked up and sang in some bands here and there, right? He was the singer that inspired me to like really love music and want to sing. So funny enough, I mean, that's actually his nickname and it's on his license now. He went and got his name changed to Brandon Rockstar Rooks. Because that's how everybody knows him. All of our clients, when they're texting me, emailing me, whatever the case, they're saying, hey, is Rockstar with you? Is Rockstar available? Whatever, right? But they just call him Rockstar. So that's where that came from. But yeah, funny enough, for the last 10 years, I really stepped away about 2 years ago. But yeah, I was a hip hop artist, a singer songwriter for other artists, whether it was pop, R&B, kind of some like alternative rock. Yeah, I was very heavily involved in the music industry. So I kind of pivoted and switched and changed into what we're doing now really about 3 years ago. And 2 years ago is when I finally said, okay, I'm just going to dive into Rockstar and I'm leaving the music industry behind. So
I want to get into the fund and everything you do in the real estate, but I mean, we got to dive a little bit more into the Rockstar days, because it's not every day you meet somebody and they're like, yeah, I was Grammy Award winning. So how did you get into the music industry? What was that like? Who did you work with? What did you do? Like, give me the Megillah.
Okay. I mean, long career, so hard to give it short, but I can try. Realistically, I started making my own music when I was 16 years old. Okay, I was in choir before that. I enjoyed singing. I was decent at it. But then I really started listening to rap and hip hop in my like teenage years. So I actually had a big injury. I thought I was going to be a professional snowboarder when I was younger. So I used to compete for Team Utah snowboarding. That's a whole nother thing. But I ruptured my spleen and I was put on 4 months of bed rest at home. So in that time, I was sitting there as a 16-year-old kid, incredibly bored. and I was listening to hip hop all the time. So I started watching YouTube videos of Mac Miller. And it was through watching him. He was out on tour with his friends. They were partying, going, doing crazy stuff. And I was like, well, that looks like a damn good time as a 15, 16-year-old kid. I'm like, that looks fun. So I'm like, "Hey, you know what? I bet I can rap. I bet I can do that." So I literally was 15, 16 searching up, how to write a rap song, right? How to record a song. And I started finding beats on YouTube, and I'd sit in my closet at my house with headphones on, writing and trying to rap with half of it off so that nobody in the house could hear me. Because I'm like embarrassed, right? Like I don't want my family knowing what I'm doing. So that's where it all started. And then I just, man, I took it very serious. I started looking up, recording studios in Utah, which is where we lived at the time, and booked my own session. And I was nervous as hell, not knowing a thing about how to record a song. I booked a session, went and tried to learn how to record a song. Eventually bought my own equipment, started going to the YouTube university of how to record music, teaching myself everything. So that snowballed. There was a long history of different things. I signed to an indie label for a while. That didn't go very well. Kind of learned my lesson about how the industry is really out for themselves. So then veered away from that and got back to being an independent artist. Um, Worked. I just like what we do now, where we're networking at mastermind events and things like that for real estate. I was doing that in music, right? So I'd find my way into any event I could and go and shake hands and introduce myself to guys that I knew were on a bigger level than me and learn what I could. So that it worked out. I ended up getting, into all the rooms of like the big labels in New York, the big labels in LA. I was friends with big artists, and they needed songwriters a lot of the time because I don't know if people know this, but most of your artists that you hear on the radio that you listen to, they don't even write their own songs. And people think they do, but they don't. So that's something I was really good at and figured out was how to structure a song. And I may have not been the best singer at all times. So it worked out for me to go and write for other singers that could sing better than me. So yeah, man, I used to spend weeks on weeks at a time in New York, weeks at a time in LA, and I'd be in the studio for hours. I mean, we used to book 12-hour studio sessions, right? And it's really fun because when you're in those studio sessions and those locations, other huge artists are coming through there and recording their songs all the time, and you're passing through the hallway and you're just meeting people, and it was man, it was really fun. But there's the opposite side to it. The hours are crazy. Trying to deal with, I was still an artist at the time as well, releasing my own music. And so maintaining a fan base, right? Creating content all the time, which you're doing a great job of.
Thanks,
But
man.
I, I didn't love the content creation part of it. And I was bad at getting myself to do it back in the day. So that was a part of my own downfall. But yeah, there's things to the music industry that aren't as fun as what I thought, 15-year-old me was looking at and would like to do. When it really comes down to the business side of it and the people that are in the industry, especially in the hip hop industry, I associated myself with some of the wrong people, right? I mean, I was young, okay? I was partying, I was having all the fun, but it became like legitimately life threatening at times. Um, I've been shot at. I've had a gun held to my head. I've had people trying to come and jump us in the club. Um, yeah, got put in some rough situations. So I didn't like that because it put me in a bad mindset all the time of being worried, and I'd pay for security all the time whenever we'd go out, and yeah, or call up big friends of mine that would just come to hang out to protect us. Yeah, it was interesting for sure.
And this is out in clubs in New York, LA, all the major cities?
Oh yeah, yeah, and especially Utah, which is where we came up, right? That's where I lived when I started making music and releasing videos and releasing songs. And at a young age, there was a bunch of other guys trying to do it. And even though I would never be the person to start a beef with anybody, it would come my way or it'd be connected to the people I was coming up with and making music with and moving with. And yeah, it put me in some bad situations.
Was it because people were trying to like people that you were hanging out with, did they legitimately come from that life?
Yeah.
And even though they were elevating and making money, it's like they couldn't let that shit go.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I won't name names, but if you go and search far enough on YouTube, you'll find who it is that I came up with. And yeah, one of them specifically comes from a very gang related family. He was very talented, and I saw that in him. So we were trying to take him out of that life, and we did. We got him signed. He had a huge $5 million record deal. Was kind of being put through the process of breaking as a big artist. Had some big songs. Started having all the big features with big artists. But he couldn't get away from that lifestyle because his entire family is in it, right?
Yeah.
So it was very hard for him. It's crazy and it's sad because honestly, I watched him go from that life to being successful. He was one of my best friends to ending up in jail and then ending up on the streets, homeless. You know, he's lived that wild roller coaster lifestyle, and although I probably would have never allowed myself to do the things that he's done that put him there, I just quickly realized, I wanted to get away from that. So
Yeah, it's
I
not an
I haven't
environment.
spoken to him in years. So
And so basically you moved away, you moved out, you moved kind of away from home to pursue this at a
yeah,
very young age. How old were you?
17. So I actually got my GED when I was 16 years old. Done with school, started pursuing music. Took a few years before it ever started paying me money, real money. So I was working, I was selling cars in the daytime, and then we would stay up all night working on music. I would sleep like 3 hours a night, right? I would go to work all day, 10 to 12 hour shifts at a car dealership because they're relentless and make you work like 60 hours a week, but the money's worth it. And then I would go and spend all night recording songs and working on music, and then we'd wake up and do it all over again. But yeah,
Damn.
it was a hustle.
Those are the days that you remember though, man.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'll never forget it. A lot of fun memories for sure.
It's just crazy because how old are you now?
28.
So talking to you as a 28-year-old, it kind of feels like you've lived like three people's lives already
100%.
at 28. So just out of curiosity, right? Like I know that you're in business with your father. It's actually you have a family business, so you're very close
Hmm.
with your family. What did your family say at that time where you're like, "Yo, I'm basically going off to pursue this as a kid"?
Sure.
I mean, people grow up at different times. Me at 17, like I'm a kid at 44. At 17, I was incapable of doing anything for myself. Like my mother was doing my laundry 3 years ago, dude.
Oh yeah.
Right? Only now I live with my girlfriend, so she's doing it. But up until I was 40, my mother was still doing my laundry. So,
Yeah.
what was that like? Were they in support of it? Were they not? Were you like, yo, this is my dream. I'm going? Were you like, F you, I'm leaving. I'm this rebellious, angsty teen, and I think I
Yep.
know everything. What was that like?
It was a mix of both. So I'm fortunate enough that my dad is kind of in the same shoes as me. He also got his GED at 16. He lived, he had hardworking parents that made a good, honest living, but they were fairly poor for most of their life. So he always went out and hustled and figured out different things himself. Um, he used to be like a disc jockey back in the day. He would go and I think he sold cars as well, but he started from a young age. Like I said, he got his GED at 16. Now, here's the thing. He did go off into the Navy, right? He spent 6 years in the Navy. So when I got my GED and was done with school, he was slapping college applications on my desk because I needed 6 credits of college credits to get into the Navy. And that's what he wanted me to do. So this is kind of wild. I still have a song out there somewhere. It's probably on SoundCloud or something. It was one of my first songs I ever recorded. I actually recorded a message in that song talking to my dad and telling him I wasn't going to join the Navy and that I was going to pursue music. And so I played them that song and let him take that in. And that's when he's like, okay. He goes, if you're not going to listen to what we want you to do, You're on your own. We're not paying your bills anymore. You can go figure it out. And that's why I moved out at 17
Wow.
and started, doing it. I mean, I was always working through school, through high school, so I knew I could figure out how to make money and be fine. But yeah, they kicked me off of their pocket, and they're like, "All right, you're on your own. Go figure it out." So,
So like, meaning I'm not paying your cell phone bill, like,
oh
or
yeah,
get out of my house.
yeah, yeah,
It was get out of my house.
yeah. So for the
Wow.
first few years, he wasn't that supportive of it until I started to make something of it, right? We started booking our own venues in Utah, and we started setting up, like, I used to kind of mix it with these like high school parties. We would host these high school parties. I'd hire a DJ and we'd put a theme to it, like the stoplight party. Wear red if you're single. Wear, I can't remember what we did with yellow, but wear green if, or no, wear green if you're single, wear red if you're taken, whatever. We'd
Yellow
host
if it's
these like
complicated.
parties. Yeah. And then we would perform, right? Like, we wouldn't even really explain that we were going to perform. We just host these parties and bring out a couple thousand people every weekend, young kids in Utah, nothing to do. So for one, we were making money off of the sale of the tickets. But for two, I was able to perform in front of all these kids and get my name out there and tell them, go follow me on social media, yada, yada. And so that's how we started to build it. And I started to make money off of music. And when I showed that to my dad, like, listen, I think I'm really going to make this work, he came around to it and he's like, okay, you know, our relationship was rocky for a few years, but he came back around and really started supporting me. And we, rekindled that relationship. But
So where were you staying in that time? Did you have money? You got an apartment, or you was like sleeping on friends' couches? Like, what did that look like?
Uh, lucky enough, from 17 to 18, one of my like best friends from down the street, his parents were very wealthy and they owned a house that had an entire kitchen, door to outside, couple bedrooms, separate laundry room, everything downstairs. It was basically two houses in one, right? And they let me pay rent there. They let me pay like $500 a month to live in their house. So yeah, I was living out of his house until 18, and then me and him actually moved out, got a house together. Dude, started our own company. We were working on cars as well. That was my other side hustle while I was working on the music. We were building car parts. Okay, we were fucking making aerodynamic car parts for cars out of aluminum composite. Started our own company. That company's still majorly successful. I got screwed out of that deal. Uh, yeah,
Is
that's
he
actually.
still is he still in that business?
Oh yeah, he's wealthier than I am, and we're the same age now. So that actually goes, for people listening to this, business owners. If you're new and you've got a business partner, I'll say this: I learned it at a very young age. Be very smart about how you structure the business, who's on what paperwork. Um, just be very careful and cautious because your best friends of many many years might screw you over. And I've seen it with my dad many times. He's been burned by multiple partners. And it's why we run our own family business now and have really no other partners, um, at least partners that have any control or say. Because, yeah, at a very young age, we started a very successful business that within a few months scaled up to doing 30, 40 grand a month. And what's crazy is our profit margins were ridiculous. We were selling a $200 product, $250 product that our cost was $30. So our profit margins were huge.
So what were you exactly selling, and how did that come together? Like, you were
So really we looked on, because I'm obsessed with race cars, right? Like street race cars. I've owned probably 16, 17 different cars now. Um, we wanted these little what are called, why am I having a brain fart? Splitters. Okay, they go underneath the front of your bumper and they stick out just a little bit. They add, you know, a design element that looks good, but
yep,
also downforce on the car.
yep.
So when we were looking these up, all that was being sold out there were carbon fiber ones that were really expensive. And we're like, fuck it, dude. I bet we can make our own. So we went to Home Depot and bought like 3 or 4 different materials that we thought would work. And most of them sucked and broke really easy whenever they hit the ground or, scratched off of whatever. But we did end up finding this material called aluminum composite that worked really well. It was fairly durable. It was easy to work with. We could cut it well. And we just started bolting these up to our own cars. And we went to car shows all the time and like these racing events every weekend. And people were like, "Oh man, that looks really good. Where'd you get it?" And we're like, "Oh, well, we made it ourselves." And it just started clicking. People were like, "Can you make one for me? Can you make one for me?" And we're like, "Yeah, why not? Pay us. Yeah, we'll make it for you." So we looked at the prices of what the carbon fiber ones were online, and we said, "Oh, our cost on this shit, we can buy this big old sheet for like $90 and we can get 3 splitters out of it." The carbon ones were like $400, $500. We're like, we'll just sell them for $300, $250. So we put them at 300, and then we just started building a business out of it, doing it out of our garage for a while. And then eventually we actually got a shop, right? Put our name on a lease. But this is where I messed up. He went and actually set up the LLC of the business because I was so focused on music at the time. We were hustling and making good money off of that, but I was like, you handle all the actual logistics of the business. I'll just help you build the stuff and I'll help you market it and sell it. And that was a mistake because we started that together, and a personal little mishap happened between us. And one day, he sent me a text message, actually ridiculous, and said, "Don't come to the shop today. I don't want to speak or hear from you. I'm going to pay you everything that you're owed right now, and I'm kicking you out of the business." And he goes, "You actually have no say because I signed all the legal docs, all this and that." And I'm like, wow. But at the
Tell
same
me that.
time, I was starting to, do well in music. I was like, fuck it. Like, it's not that big of a deal. But that kid went on to grow it to a major scale. Right before he kicked me out, I had gotten the business posted on these Instagram pages that had millions of followers and cars. We started getting thousands of requests on our Instagram page of people wanting to buy our stuff because we put out this sponsorship package where we'd give them 50 bucks off. All they had to do was rock the sticker on the splitter, yada, yada. Dude, he went on to take that to do, he probably does at least 100 grand a month in business with that business. And he's been doing it for years now. So
Tell me that mishap involved a girl.
no,
Oh,
very,
all right.
very, very silly enough. It involved, kind of like high school drama of a rumor. So between our friend group, okay, and keep in mind we were young at the time, but I had told one of our friends that I didn't like the way that my partner was handling the customer service. Okay, he was very rude to people, and I just had mentioned to one of our friends. I said, "Man," because that was one thing he handled. I handled all the sales. I handled a lot of the building of the materials. Well, we did that together, but he would handle the customer service, and he was like building out our website and doing kind of more of those things. And I told one of our friends, I said, "Man, I would run this a little different if he would let me have that control. And I think he should." Well, that person went to my buddy, who was my partner, and told him, "Dylan thinks he can run the company better than you." Right. And so that was it for him. Apparently it just set him off, pissed him off. Now this is funny. I don't know if it's coincidence or not. And I'll tell you this, he was Mormon. My father has also been screwed over by Mormon partners, business partners before, over some very silly drama and things like that. I don't know what it is, but I've got a beef with the Mormons. Dude, I got a beef with the Mormons.
Bro, they need the money. They have 300 children each, bro. They got to
Yeah.
feed these freaking kids.
Yeah. So it sucks because I'm sitting back here watching him take that business and become wildly successful. At a very young age, bought a very nice dream home, bought all the cars I wanted that I was working my way towards, but he got them. Like, fuck. But yeah,
Yeah, that shit has a way of coming full circle, though, man. You're super
it
young,
does.
and you and your
It
father
does.
have built an amazing business. So
Mhm.
that people understand, right? what is it that you guys actually do?
Sure. So people complicate this at times, but I'll try to simplify it, right? So we're essentially the capital raising arm to two other strategic partners. Okay. And they have three different entities. Um, but what's nice is all the capital we raise and lend to their operations, that's it. We're a lending fund. We lend to them, but we're in and out of all the deals at just the dirt stage. Okay. For one builder, it was acquiring all the lots that he wanted to build on. Okay. So we're just involved in the dirt. Secondly, what's really becoming this incredible company that's exploding and becoming a disruptor in the space is our partners focused on land entitlement and strictly land entitlement. So they go out, acquire ground, get it under contract. They may not buy it. A lot of the times they control the ground. Okay. They work to get that ground fully entitled. My bad. um, as they do this process, right, they actually zone it out, figure out how many lots they can fit on that piece of ground. They engineer it. Okay. So they're engineering the entire plans and they essentially sell paper lot communities to the biggest home builders in the country. So there may be some people out there that do that, but they're very small and they're not doing it at scale. Okay, they built a company of having 30 plus independent development consultants or land asset managers, or what the big national home builders call them, that work strictly for BRD. And their job is to go out, find the ground, acquire it, and bring 1,000 to 2,000 permittable, fully entitled lots to BRD every year. Okay. The scale at which they're doing this is incredible because last year we were only at about 20,000 lots in their pipeline. As of today, I just got off a call with them the other day. We're sitting around 56, 57,000 lots in their pipeline. And that equates to roughly $1.5 billion worth of retail ground. And they operate at somewhere around a 40% profit margin. So
Nuts.
nuts. And we're just the lender that's in the deal for all of their acquisition and entitlement costs. So they may put a deposit down with the seller, and then they need to pay the engineers, they need to pay the cities, municipalities for the entitlements. But it's pretty incredible. These big, like DR Horton, for instance, okay, the number one builder in the country, their huge divisional presidents have come to our company and said, this is unbelievable. You guys are going to change the face of how builders are buying ground in America. They're they're like, nobody is doing what you guys are doing. This is unreal. And we can't believe no one's done it yet. So crazy enough, last year we did a $20 million raise, which was to grow their pipeline, but also to bring on a CEO from Meritage Homes. Okay. Uh, he was a regional president of all of Florida. Okay. Their land operations. And he was being groomed to be the COO of sales for all of Meritage Homes. The guy left a $2 million a year salary job to come be the new acting CEO of BRD Land and help them implement new processes and systems and kind of just dial in their operations. But what's insane is he left that. Who leaves a $2 million a year salary job that was going to get better? Okay. It's because he bought a piece of ground from BRD. And then when he realized what BRD was doing, he goes, holy shit, there's nobody doing this. He goes, I want in. So we went through a year of negotiations with him before bringing him in. And it's just incredible because now he's pulling other high level executives from big national home builders. I mean, everyone on their team of BRD has 15, 20, 25 years of experience in either the home building space or the land entitlement space. And so it's this incredible company of highly experienced operators that are strictly focused on that one goal of acquiring ground, getting it entitled, and selling it to builders. And so we get to be the money. We get to be the money behind it because traditional banks don't want to be a part of it. So
So are you involved? Like, are you part owner of that company as well, or you're just lending them money?
as of last year, I got a little bit of shares in a CCF2 is what we're calling it, that we did with that $20 million raise. But no, I'm not an owner in that company.
So if I could say it a little bit different for people that aren't as sophisticated, essentially, these guys are operating kind of a two-prong operation. They have it's a sales business, and then it's a land entitlement business. So like DR Horton and all these big home builders, they don't really necessarily have the time to go out and acquire land and put it through the entitlement process and wait and do all that. They just want to build. Like that's what they do. They've gotten that down
Yep.
to a science. They build cheaper than anybody, and it's a machine. So these people are going out and finding, I mean, they're basically buying like giant plots of land, right? 100,
Hmm.
200, 300, 500, 1,000 home plots, right? Subdivisions.
Yeah.
Putting them under contract. You are lending them the money to do that and bring it through the entitlement process. Because when you have 50,000 lots under contract, that's a lot of money. Even if on each deal you're laying out a $500,000 or something like that, when you have so many deals, it's tens of, obviously you have $100 million fund.
Yeah.
It's $100 million, let's say.
Yeah.
They spend a year or two getting the approvals to build the houses, and then they never take title. They are literally assigning, like in the same way a wholesaler would assign a traditional single family home deal, they're assigning 1,000 lot subdivision to DR Horton, taking their money, repaying you, and going off into the sunset to do the next deal.
Hmm.
And they're
Yeah.
doing it at massive scale that essentially has never been done before in the country.
Yeah.
Where are they doing this? Like where, because this stuff is not happening in Long Island. I will tell you that. There's
Yeah.
no land to be had anywhere in New York unless you go
Of
upstate.
course not. Yeah.
So, but
So
everybody, I'm buying houses from everybody who's leaving Long Island, and most of them are going to Tennessee, North Carolina, and Florida and Texas. So I
there
have
you
a
go.
feeling it's probably a couple of those.
Yeah, you're pretty close. So heavy. We are very, very heavy in North Carolina, which is where they're based. It's where their offices are. But we are in Florida, mainly Southwest Florida. We're in Georgia. We are in Texas, and we're also in South Carolina. So both Carolinas, Florida, Georgia, and Texas currently. Now this is something that is going to be scaled and duplicated across all the markets, all the builders that we sell to now, which is at least 14 of the top 20 builders on the top 100 builder list. They're all begging us to come to the markets that they're in. They're like, "Can you please come do this over here?" And we're like, "Yeah, we will." Okay, I got to do this right. We got to put the right people in place. But yeah, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah. So people know, because people listen to this conversation and they're like, "Oh, this is easy. You just get it under contract, you get it entitled." It's not that easy. Like
No.
you have to know. I mean, you have to know people.
Yeah.
Just locally here, if I'm getting a permit to renovate a house, if I don't know the people in a certain township, it might take 3, 4, 5, 6 months. If you don't know the right people to deal with and you're not in with the right people, it might never happen.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
this is a highly specialized. A, you have to understand the legalities because zoning is law. That's what it is. And then B, you have to have the relationships in these areas to be able to push these things through. And
Yep.
even then, it's not easy.
Yep. Yeah. So that's it. I say that all the time because people get excited in real estate and see the next thing and hear it and say, "Oh, I can do that. I want to do that." And I tell people to, slow down if they hear what we do and they want to try it because it is very hard. That's why we're just the money and we let them do it because we know they're damn good at it. But that's the thing that people have to understand. They're so diligent and so smart in their contracts and how they go about stuff. For one, in their contract, when they have a seller under contract where they control the ground, they haven't bought it. Okay. There's a clause in there that says if at any point in time we find out that this piece of ground is not going to be able to move through the process of entitlement, they do not have to close on that piece of ground. Okay, so they've never once gotten stuck with a piece of ground that they couldn't move through and sell off. That's a huge key component because people get excited. They'll go look on the MLS and find a piece of ground for sale, buy it because they have all these ideas in their head of what they can do with it. And then when they try to go and do that, they can't execute. They can't get the entitlements, permits. It's not possible. There's too many whatever roadblocks, and they're stuck with a piece of ground that they have to go and list back on the MLS and hope to sell and make their money back, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's incredible how much profit there is in the dirt, but you have to know every step of what you're doing with it, and like you said, know the right people to get it done.
Yeah,
It's
it is.
not
It's super
easy.
difficult. Yeah,
Yeah.
those deals for people that aren't into this, it's called subject to. So you're going under contract subject to getting the approvals to subdivide and get whatever density it is you're looking for. And then sometimes they renegotiate the deal, but they're basically breaking it down to on a lot by lot basis. They know that they're going to get approvals and it's going to cost them X amount of dollars per lot for the dirt, and they know that they're going to assign it for Y amount of dollars per lot for the dirt, and they're making the spread. And since it's on such a mass scale, they're making a lot of money.
Yeah.
And a lot of people can get afraid. A lot of people are nervous of this stuff because it's such a giant project. It's such a huge property and it's such a huge project. But it pretty much takes the same amount of work to do a 2-lot subdivision as it takes to do a 200-lot subdivision. There's just a lot more zeros there. And if you're operating it the right way in a subject to what manner, where you're not risking that much. And again, you probably have $100,000 to $500,000 worth of soft costs and things associated with getting the approval. So there is money on the line. Like I have done subject to deals and it didn't happen. You know, the most recently I did one, I lost $178,000 trying
Mm-hmm.
to do a rezoning to convert a temple into an assisted living facility. And all the people in the town came out like I was selling kids into sex slavery or something. And they just,
Jeez.
torpedoed that. But I mean, you have to pay for plans, architectural, engineering. You have to pay for the attorneys. Like there's a lot that goes into it. It's not easy at all.
Yeah.
But the cool thing, and again, for people that don't understand, what looks glamorous on your end is you're the money. So
Mm-hmm.
you're not building anything, you're not getting anything entitled. You're the lending arm. But that in itself is very difficult to do. Like every time I go to one of these meetup events or I go anywhere, everyone's like, need capital, need capital, need capital, need capital. For a lot of people, it's very difficult. For other people like yourself, it's an easy thing to do. You know how to do it. It's your thing. So you and your father have successfully raised $100 million. How long ago? In what period of time? How long have you been in business for?
6 years.
In 6 years.
Yeah.
I mean, amazing. So talk about that a little bit. Like, how did that start? And then what has the fundraising process been like?
Sure. I mean, first off, I've got to give most all the credit to my dad. It's incredible what he's done. He's a guy who operates off of a high level of integrity and just being that guy who will do what he says he will, right? So, with that being said, he's kind of been in the investment real estate world for 20, 25 years, even starting out from being a broker himself. But as he's moved along through all these different avenues of investment real estate, he's helped so many investors, whether they bought properties, sold properties, got into, different syndications on apartment complexes, whatever the case may be. They've done it all. And he's went from being, a guy who owned 1,000 doors at one time himself, to getting completely out of that. So all through that process, he kept his book of business, kept track of everyone he worked with. And every time he went to something new, he just said he would send out an email or a letter, hey, guys, I know I helped you with this. I hope all is going well. Here's what I'm doing now. Just hit me up if you'd like to be involved or if you need any help, yada, yada. So forever. And he's also been a guy who just gave free advice all the time to his clients. He would get on and coach investors on how to buy properties, how to deal with things that you have to deal with in the investment real estate world for free. He never charged people for it. So people just love him. And he built up this big book of business with a couple hundred or maybe 1,000 different investors across the US. Because at one point in time, one year, he sold shit, what was it? 900 and something properties. It was some ridiculous amount, almost sold 1,000. He hates himself for it. He's like, I didn't hit my goal of selling 1,000, but he almost did. And I'm talking single family homes. Insane. But anyways, all through that, builds up this great reputation, and that's what's helped follow him through this. When he finally left the other partners he was with and started his own company, it wasn't that hard for him to go out and raise capital. But to continue to raise capital, okay, through the last 6 years, you have to be somebody who can perform and do what you say you're going to do, right? So there's a lot of operators and syndicators out there who get a great idea and launch a fund, but then simply don't end up hitting the numbers they say they're going to hit, hitting the timelines of the things they say they're going to hit. And that's where we've been incredibly consistent, and that just helps us raise capital. Now, besides, you met us at a mastermind event. We're a part of a few different masterminds, and we get called to come and speak or sponsor a few different events. But besides that, our entire book of business has come from my father's clients, their referrals, or people that I've met, right? Because I've met quite a few different investors these days going to the events that we go to, but it's all off of personal relations. We do, up until a month ago, we've done zero online marketing, zero social media. So I say that to say it's hard to do it the way we've done it, off of just brute force personal relationships, shaking hands, making phone calls, making emails, and it's all been mainly warm referrals for the most part. We've never done a cold call, not once. So it's just a lot of it goes to him, but a lot of it goes to our reputation now and what we uphold, and just the personal connection and relationship that we have. I mean, honest to God, clients call me any hour of the day. As long as I can, I'm picking up the phone and answering. I don't care if I'm out hanging out with my girl and her kid and we're doing some fun stuff. I'm picking it up. Baby, give me 10 minutes. I'll be back. Like, I'm there for people. That's how my dad's been. That's kind of the standard we set. And so people just appreciate that. So be the person people can trust with your money, right? Perform and do what you say you're going to do. And it'll, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know, but it'll, domino effect to all the people around them, right? They'll tell people and they'll be happy to spread your name. And
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's literal. I remember when I first got into investing, I was like, how am I going to get this money? And my mentor at the time is like, listen, if you do the right thing by people, you'll have so much money at some point. People will be lining up to give you money. You'll need more deals.
yeah,
Like, you'll have so much money. So listen, it's a testament to, your father living his life a certain way and taking care of people for decades.
yep.
And now you, as the next generation, who's kind of, modernizing it and taking it to the next level by going out and meeting new people, and, going to Bali and going to these different events, and now getting on social media and really exposing people to who you guys are and what you're doing. It's amazing. I'm super proud of you, man. Super young, doing amazing things. I'm really looking forward to, continuing to be your friend, and watching what happens over the next, 10 plus years. I know you're out at 40. You already told me. You're like, I'm out, dude. 40, I'm out. I have a
Yeah,
feeling you
we'll
might
see,
stick,
but
you might stick
probably.
in a little longer, because you're probably going to get bored.
Yep.
But, if you had nothing to do after 40 for the next 100 years.
Right.
But
We're going to live to
listen,
150, right?
yeah. At that point, they'll be changing out pretty soon. They'll be changing out organs like car parts.
Yeah.
So, I mean, listen, I appreciate you coming out. This was amazing, super interesting for people to see and watch. If anybody is obviously interested in learning more about the fund and investing with you, I recommend it. It's a great opportunity. The returns are literally, off the charts. How do they get in touch with you? How do they reach out and talk to you guys?
Yeah. You can hit us up, rockstarcapitalfund.com, or you can email me, Dylan at rockstarcapitalfund.com. But yeah, if you go online, you can book a call with me. We'll get in touch pretty easily. So yeah, it's a great opportunity. And I'll say this: most people that are in the investment world or that have done deals like this know that the minimums are usually 50 to 100K. So that's something I think that's different and cool about us. We've actually opened it up for more of the average investor to get in at a smaller level and dip their toes in the water and actually get access to deals like this. Because if you don't have the capital, you typically don't have access to deals like this. Our minimum is $10,000. So it's an easy starting point for people to dip their toes in, see how it works, see how it pays. It's funny. I get it all the time. People are like, I'll just start with the minimum, and then we'll probably add to it. A couple months goes by, a couple quarters, they're getting paid, and they're like, we're adding to it. So
Yeah, no, it's true. Listen, if you have money and you're not a professional investor, where are you putting it? What are you putting it in the stock market casino? Like you're putting it in a mutual fund? Like where are you putting it?
yep,
Something like this allows you to make double-digit returns doing something non-conventional that's tied to a real asset, dirt. Like, hey, they're not making any more of it. Like
yep,
everyone's moving out of Long Island and moving to North Carolina. Like the building is not stopping there anytime in the near future. So listen,
very true.
congratulations on all your success. If anybody's interested, definitely reach out. If anybody has a piece of a house that smells like cat pee or land or anything, I'm easy. I want to buy it. 516-777 sold. That's a wrap.
Yeah, buddy.